Hello, hello. Welcome to the place for offbeat health professionals who have bravely swapped their healthcare hats for non-clinical creative caps. I'm Caitlin, a psychologist turned copywriter, and this is Healers with Hustles.
Okay, welcome back from the holidays. I hope you had a fab break. Now, I've been doing a little bit of reflection about my business and what I do. And in order to do that, that means I've been working on my messaging, which is incredibly important. So we all know in terms of, say, websites, how a beautiful website can really wow your audience. But the thing is, without the right messaging, even the most beautiful design will fall flat. In fact, most people decide whether to stay on your website in just 15 seconds. I think it might even be 10. I've seen data on. And most of that time is spent within the first two screenfuls. So a lot of people will only look above the fold, what they call, before you even scroll down, which means that messaging there is so important to get right. And so that's why I wanted to really focus on today on messaging and talking about why the strategy behind the words you use is really important to be able to convert casual visitors into dream clients. So I'll be talking about like the psychology about why people decide to stay or bounce from your website, the biggest mistakes that people make with their messaging and how to fix them, and a simple framework to write the most important message your audience will ever see. So let's get started. So what is messaging really? So really messaging is about strategy. So it's like how your brand articulates its value. Your brand messaging really defines what your brand says, how it says it, and why it matters to your audience. But why messaging is important because it ensures that everything your brand communicates, from its tagline to a social post to an email to a blog to insert whatever piece of content, is aligned with your purpose and resonates with your ideal audience, but also positions you as the solution to their needs. But messaging is different from copywriting. So copywriting is about like the tactics, but messaging is about the strategy. And then brand voice is also something different. So that's how you communicate your message in terms of how you communicate your brand's personality. Messaging gives the direction and the copy delivers that message, but then the brand voice makes it feel like you, right? Consistent messaging is really important. But why does most messaging miss the mark? Ooh, what's that? Is that, well, one, people haven't ever thought about it. So they've never done it before, or it's rushed, or they just assume that they know what their brand is about, or they try to speak to everyone. So when messaging is really broad and generic, it appeals to no one. And why is that? Because it waters something down, it waters the impact down. And so that means it's not actually speaking to anybody, right? You know, that whole saying, if you speak to everyone, you speak to no one. That's exactly why messaging is so important. Or another thing is that your message isn't actually what your audience cares about. Like maybe you're talking about saving people time, but people don't care about time. They care about status. Or maybe they don't care about status. They just want a watch that works. It also needs to reflect the priorities or the desires of your audience. And then maybe also people have too many things. Like really messaging should be, a lot of people say every piece of content should only have one message. So there's the golden rule of one. A lot of the times when messaging misses the mark, they're trying to say too many things, too many features, too many details, too much, too much, too much. Another reason that messaging can miss the mark is because people focus on like what the product is rather than the benefits, like why the audience cares or how it transforms the audience's life. But that's quite a bit to take in. So maybe we should narrow things down a bit and talk a little bit about in terms of websites, right? So messaging on your website, probably the most important messaging to have nailed is who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and why the hell I should care, aka or also known as your unique selling proposition. And so really, if your audience doesn't know all of those things in the first 10 seconds, they'll bounce. And that's why when I write websites for brands, I make sure that their unique selling proposition to all those elements in the hero section of the website. So that's the part before people scroll down. So it's right there. So you don't confuse people. So a pretty basic formula, and this is copywriting, right? A formula. So here's a formula for messaging. So I help insert audience achieve insert goal by how you do it. so that they experience a benefit or transformation. So, for example, I help service-based professionals attract dream clients by writing words on websites that sound like them rank on Google so they can stop chasing leads and start booking. That's a pretty good USP for a copywriter. But what else is included in messaging? That's only one tiny little aspect of, say, a messaging guide. What else can a business focus on, or what else can a business define in terms of their messaging? So that could be your core values, which is super, super important. I've also got a freebie about how to identify values, which I'll pop in the show notes. But then, of course, who you're speaking to, so your target audience. Probably heard a bazillion times people bang on about your ideal client avatar and having that nailed down. But it is important to know, to even just think about who your people are. But rather than just demographics, think of psychographics as well. So they're like their struggles, their desires, their motivations, their secret dreams and their wishes that maybe they wouldn't be so open to talking about. So you kind of got to almost read your ideal client's diary to work out what they really want. Your USP, I've talked about that. And then really the key core problems that you solve as well. And then the opposite of that, so your benefits or transformations that you offer for each product or service. You can do that because it might be different for each product and service you do. And also your brand story, I think, is really important, right? So how you came to create your business, like what's your story? People love a story, right? And that doesn't mean you've got to have some rags to riches story or anything like that, but it's just about humanizing your brand and people going, hey, me too, or I see that in you, I want to work with you because you're a little bit like me. Really humanizes your business. And of course, I almost missed one of the most important ones is your vision or your big why, like why you're doing what you're doing. What's the dreamy goal that you have for the business, which can be so, so important. Like when I've worked with some brands, done messaging guides for brands who were actually almost going to stop their business. They were like, I've had enough, I'm fed up, I don't want to do this anymore. And literally by creating the guide and focusing on their values and then their vision or like what they were actually in their business for, it helped remind them why they started their business in the first place, like how things have changed and where they're headed for the future. And it just reignited their love for their business. And yeah, I'm thinking of someone in particular who's now, killing it, doing amazing things in her business. But if she hadn't have taken the time to work on messaging, then it's quite sad that she wouldn't be now impacting so many people in the amazing way she is. And that's why it's so important to know these foundational elements of your business. But before I leave you, I want to leave you with a bit of an exercise to do. Go to your website and just type in your URL, hit enter, wait for it to load, and then I want you to take 10 seconds and read what the first things are on your website. And can you answer who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and why it matters? And if you can't, that's something that I would super, super, super recommend you to fix. And if you think maybe messaging is something that your brand needs, you can always reach out to me because it's something that I love doing. It's one of my favorite things. And particularly as a psychologist, I feel like it's one of, if I could toot my own horn, and it's one of my strengths, being able to find other people's strengths and help them articulate that in a way that feels good to them.
All right. That's the end of another episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to Healers with Hustles. If you've enjoyed today's episode, will you do me a tiny favor and subscribe to the show? Just tap the subscribe button on your favorite podcast platform and you'll be the first to know as soon as a new episode drops. Thanks so much for listening. Okay, ta-ta for now.